Hey y'all, I was looking for updates in the Jack and Lilly Sullivan case, and I did find two news articles I wanted to bring to you guys. One of them is going to talk about anomalies that experts have started to point out in the case, and the second one is going to give us an updated timeline. So let's go ahead and start with the anomalies that experts have started to point out in the case. When you look for information on this case as well as others, it's best to go with an accredited news source. This case in particular, because it's out of Canada and they don't share a lot of information outside of the country, it's harder to find updates. So this is the CBC is out of Canada and it is an accredited news source, so I trust this company. Be careful where you're getting your information from. So, this article is titled Experts Point to Anomalies in Unprecedented Case of Missing Nova Scotia Children. Lilly Sullivan 6 and Jack Sullivan 4 were reported missing on May 2nd. There is a picture of the children, Lily all the way to the left. In the middle, there is an area that has been searched, and then all the way to the right is Jack. At the bottom of the picture, it reads Lily and Jack Sullivan were reported missing from their home in Nova Scotia's Pictou County on May 2nd. It reads, 2 weeks after two young siblings vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia, experts are pointing to anomalies in what they say is an unprecedented case that deviates from a typical missing children investigation. Lily 6 and brother Jack Sullivan 4 have been missing since May 2nd. That's when police received a 911 call reporting that they had wandered away from their home in Lansdowne Station, a sparsely populated area of about 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. Nova Scotia RCMP then launched a search that included ground search and rescue officials, dog teams, drones, and helicopters. But after 6 days of scouring the heavily wooded areas surrounding the home, there was no sign of the children and the search was called off. Police have said they do not believe the children were abducted, but have not ruled out that the case is suspicious. There is a picture of the home, and beneath it, it reads, the two children were reported missing from this home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, about 25 kilometers southwest of New Glasgow. The article continues, Michelle Janis, an associate professor in the Criminal Justice Department at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, said the facts of the case and apparent lack of evidence makes it an, quote, anomaly, unquote. Quote, it doesn't meet a lot of the normal criteria for what we would see for these types of cases, unquote, said Janis, whose research areas include missing persons and juvenile justice. Quote, usually there is evidence in some way that would suggest something nefarious has happened. It mirrors those adult missing persons case where we call it, quote, quiet disappearances. There's no evidence, unquote. A few details stand out to Janis as unusual, including the children's absence from school that week. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, told CBC News the children were not in school on Thursday or Friday, the morning of the disappearance, due to illness. They also were not at school on Wednesday due to a professional development day. Quote, it could be just incredibly bad timing that they had 48 hours unaccounted for before the disappearance, but that's just one of the things that stands out in my head, unquote, she said. This picture is of Michelle Janis, and under it, it reads, Michelle Janis is an associate professor in the Criminal Justice Department at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Police will not say if anyone else had contact or saw the children in the days leading up to the day they went missing. Janice said she believes police should be considering whether a person played a part. In a stereotypical kidnapping by a stranger, the offender doesn't usually target a specific child or children. They create a plan, and whoever is in the environment at the time falls victim, said Janice. Quote, it doesn't seem like that would be the case here because what we know is they were in their backyard in a rural community. So it's not like they were walking to school or to the gas station or something where it can be an easy snatch situation, unquote, she said. Quote, so if it was a stereotypical stranger kidnapping, it would have had to have been somebody who said, quote, I want those kids in particular, unquote. Nova Scotia RCMP said on Tuesday that they were following up on more than 180 tips from members of the public and exploring all avenues in the investigation. There is a picture of Lily and Jack. Under it, it reads, "It has been 2 weeks since siblings Lily Sullivan, 6, and Jack Sullivan, 4, vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia. The RCMP are continuing their investigation and say there is no evidence of an abduction." The Mounties said 35 people were identified for formal interviews, including community members and those closest to the children. In this picture, under it, it reads, "The family's property in Lansdowne Station is shown from the air." The article continues, Michael Arntfield, a criminologist at Western University in London, Ontario, called the case, quote, "unprecedented," unquote, saying it is highly unlikely for two siblings who live together to vanish when a parent is not involved. Quote, "And there's no evidence of that. If that had been the case, I think we would have heard about that very quickly," unquote, he said. Quote, "This case, when you overlay it on 100 other missing children cases, it just doesn't add up at many levels," unquote. Anfield said he thinks police could be more forthcoming with information about the case, given the public is being solicited for information. He said following up on 180 tips requires a great deal of resources. Quote, "Police can't be everywhere, so they rely in cases like this one on the eyes and ears of the public, and that needs to be a two-way street in terms of information," unquote, he said. Quote, "Otherwise, they're just going to get tips that really just bog down the investigation and aren't necessarily of any substantive value," unquote. Under this picture, it reads, "Stuffed animals and flowers rest on a post outside the RCMP detachment in Stellarton, Nova Scotia, in honor of Lily Sullivan, 6, and Jack Sullivan, 4. He also said police should have said publicly in the early days of the search whether the case was considered suspicious. Quote, "I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that there is some active lead being worked and that they don't want to upset the equilibrium that they're in," unquote, said Arntfield. Quote, "But based on appearances, this went the wrong direction early on, and key momentum and leads were lost when they were out in the fields looking for kids that maybe were never there," unquote. RCMP said Friday that all missing persons cases, quote, "are treated as suspicious until our investigation leads us to determine otherwise," unquote. In an email Friday evening, Martel said he was told by police not to disclose updates during the investigation. Under this picture, it reads, "Search and rescue crews and other responders are seen on May 5th, 2025, during the ongoing search for Lily and Jack Sullivan in Nova Scotia's Pictou County." The article continues, the children's maternal grandmother, Cindy Murray, has said police have advised the family against speaking to the media. Nova Scotia RCMP declined an interview request and would not answer specific questions about the case. In a statement, spokesperson Corporal Carly McCannon said police have spoken to the majority of people identified as potentially having information to support the investigation, and other interviews are scheduled to take place in the coming days and weeks. Quote, "Officers involved are also continuing to follow up on new tips that come in," unquote, said McCain, adding that to ensure the integrity of the investigation, no further details will be released. McCannon declined to provide more information about why police believe the children were not abducted. On Friday, Kevin McLean from Colchester Ground Search and Rescue said searchers will be back in the woods on Saturday and Sunday with volunteers from multiple search and rescue teams. In a news release Friday evening, RCMP said the search will focus on specific areas around Gerlach Road. The Sullivan home is on this road. And that's all of that article. I want to reiterate this line right here. And it reads, quote, "Officers involved are also continuing to follow up on all new tips that come in," unquote, said McCannon, adding that to ensure the integrity of the investigation, no further details will be released. So again, be careful where you get your information from. Now let's go over the timeline that has been updated since the children have now been missing for 2 weeks. Both of these articles show that they were last updated 3 hours ago. I had just checked it on the other one. So there is again Lily and Jack. Under the picture, it reads, "It's been 2 weeks since two young children vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia. The search for the siblings, 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, is expected to resume on Saturday. Here's everything we know about what's happened since their disappearance." It's been 2 weeks since two young children vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia. Here's a look back at what's happened since they disappeared. Starts with Friday, May 2nd. Around 10 a.m., 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan are reported missing from their home on Gerlach Road in Lansdowne Station, roughly 25 kilometers southwest of New Glasgow. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, told CBC News the siblings had been kept home from school that day and the previous day because Lily had a cough. There was no school on that Wednesday because it was a professional development day for teachers. Martel said that while he and their mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, were in the bedroom with their 1-year-old daughter, Lily came in and out several times, and Jack could be heard in the kitchen. Shortly after, they could not hear the children. Martel said he believes the children opened the sliding back door, which he said is nearly silent, and went outside. The home borders a heavily wooded area with steep banks and thick brush. At 12:25 p.m., RCMP issued a news release notifying the public about the missing children and asking anyone with information to come forward. Police say that they believe the children wandered away from the home and there was no evidence of an abduction. At 4:55 p.m., the Mounties issue an update saying the search is ongoing and ask the public to stay away from the area. The news release says a vulnerable missing persons advisory was issued for Pictou County earlier that day. Saturday, May 3rd. Volunteers search through the night. More than 100 people are involved in the search, which includes ground search and rescue, dog services, drones, and helicopters. Officials remain optimistic that the children will be found. At 5:26 p.m., Nova Scotia RCMP issue a wider missing persons alert to Pictou, Colchester, and Antigonish counties. The children's mother speaks to CTV News saying she is staying hopeful. Sunday, May 4th. As the search continues for the missing children, their stepfather said he wants authorities to monitor the New Brunswick border and nearby airports in case the children were abducted. RCMP Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon says 160 searchers are out looking for the children despite challenging conditions due to heavy rain. Monday, May 5th. Police and rescue agencies continue to search for the children 24/7. Nova Scotia RCMP told CBC News searchers they located what could have been a footprint on Saturday and expanded the search effort in that area. 4 drones with thermal imaging technology are used at night to look for heat signatures in the woods. Tuesday, May 6th. 5 days since the children were reported missing, a Nova Scotia RCMP spokesperson says the case remains a missing persons investigation. The children's stepfather tells CBC News that after their disappearance, the children's mother left the area to be with her family in another part of the province and blocked him on social media. He said that there was an argument between the two families out in the yard of the home that day. The children's maternal grandmother speaks to the Canadian press in a brief phone interview. Cindy Murray says the family is, quote, hoping and praying, unquote, for the children to come home. She also says police advise the family against speaking to the media. Wednesday, May 7th. At 2 p.m., Nova Scotia RCMP announced the search for the missing kids is being, quote, scaled back, unquote. Sergeant Staff Curtis McKinnon says there hasn't been any confirmed sightings of the children and it is unlikely that they are alive. He says searchers have covered a heavily wooded 4 square kilometer area, roughly the size of Halifax's downtown, and teams will be returning to areas previously searched. The children's stepfather tells CBC News he's exhausted. Thursday, May 8th. The Nova Scotia RCMP pack up their command center in Lansdowne Station and most searchers leave the area. The children's stepfather tells CBC News that he spoke with investigators from the Major Crime Unit at the Stellarton RCMP detachment earlier in the week. He says he willingly handed over his phone to police and investigators have searched the home. Martell said he has also asked for a polygraph test, but RCMP declined to say whether a polygraph would be administered. An RCMP underwater team searches bodies of water in Lansdowne Station area. Meanwhile, a makeshift memorial is taking shape at the nearby Stellarton RCMP detachment, where community members are laying stuffed animals and flowers. And we saw a picture of that in the other article. Friday, May 9th to Monday, May 12th. On May 9th, RCMP underwater team continues to search bodies of water in the Lansdowne Station area. On May 12th, a supportive community drop-in event is held by Nova Scotia Health at West River Fire Hall. According to Nova Scotia Health, 17 families attend the event, where School Plus facilitators lead child-friendly activities and crisis outreach and health promotion staff are on hand to offer support and resource navigation. At 3:04 p.m., RCMP issued a news release correcting the spelling of Lily's name. The agency had previously been spelling her name as Lily with one L. Tuesday, May 13th, the children have now been missing for 12 days. At 12:54 p.m., Nova Scotia RCMP issued a release saying that they are continuing to investigate the case. Police say that they are following up on more than 180 tips from the public and have identified 35 people to conduct formal interviews with. Those people include community members and those closest to the family. Police also confirmed that an underwater recovery team searched lakes around Lansdowne Station on May 8th and 9th but did not uncover any evidence. Wednesday, May 14th, no update is provided on the case. Thursday, May 15th, Nova Scotia RCMP confirmed again that there has been no evidence to suggest the children were abducted. Friday, May 16th, that is this here day right now. It has now been 2 weeks since the children were reported missing. Kevin McLean of Colchester Ground Search and Rescue says in an interview the search will resume Saturday at Lansdowne Station with volunteers from multiple search and rescue teams. In a news release Friday evening, RCMP said the search will focus on specific areas around Gerlach Road. The Sullivan home is on this road. And there's another picture, and it reads, "It has been 2 weeks since Lily and Jack Sullivan were reported missing. Dozens of searchers and a team of police have been looking for them." Brett Ruskin has the story. I don't know if you had noticed, but on that last article, I had clicked hoping that we would get an audio of what the grandmother said, and where it was blue, like when it's blue like this, you can click on the links, right? So I had clicked on that one where it said grandmother of missing kids age 4 and 6 speaks out. And right here it tells us what she said. It says, quote, "We're just hoping and praying for the best. That's it. For our babies to come home." Unquote, Cindy Murray said in a brief phone interview, adding that police have advised the family against speaking to the public. Murray is the grandmother of 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, who were last seen Friday morning. Her daughter is the children's mother, Malaya Brooks Murray. And see, like if I was to click on this, it would take me to another article. That's what I had done to get here. So I wanted to let you know that that's what she had said. I want to thank you for watching this video all the way to the end because you are amazing. And thank you for listening to this update on the children. Again, I want to reiterate, please be careful with who you trust to bring you information. Make sure your sources are verified. I hope you all have a good evening and please keep these babies in your prayers. Thank you so much.